Good afternoon, distinguished chairperson, ladies and gentlemen. This is Fu Fen. I'm a lecturer in Shaoyang University in China and also a PhD student in Sagi University, Malaysia. Today, I'm going to present a paper which focuses on Chinese students' anxiety while learning English as a foreign language. Which is part of my PhD study. This work is co-authored with my supervisor, Prof. Gunan, and my PhD fellow, Mr. Arif, in Sagi University, Malaysia, and my colleague, Long Juan, from Shaoyang University in China. China is now implementing the Go Global strategy, encouraging its enterprises to put themselves in the global competition through an active internationalization process. And we know that English is used as a global language and is closely related to growing economies. However, China's English language proficiency ranked only 62nd globally and was rated as low proficiency according to the international education company, Education First. So we cannot help asking ourselves, what factors affect English language learning in China? And this is a question that has troubled a lot of Chinese scholars and educators. Among the answers for language anxiety has drawn much attention. It refers to the feeling of nervousness, worry, apprehension when learning a foreign language. And it is commonly regarded as a hindrance to second or foreign language acquisition. And according to an international survey by De Beer and McIntyre in the year 2014, the Asian people experienced highest level of FLA in the international study. So, ladies and gentlemen, did you ever have the feelings of anxiety and apprehension when using English or any foreign language? In Malaysia, English is regarded as a second language and is widely used in all educational levels and daily lives. But in China, English is taught as a foreign language since the third year in primary school. It means that for a second-year tertiary student, they have received compulsory English education for at least 12 years. But we know that China, Mandarin is the only official language there. So let's think about the discrepancy between these years of English learning and the low English proficiency level. So are they Chinese EFL learners not able to communicate in English effectively just because their low proficiency level or the anxiety and worry prevent them from effectively using it? So that is what we're going to do, the sustainable English teaching and learning in China. Because according to Krashen's affective theater hypothesis, the emotions can actively interact, interfere or assist learners' language acquisition, and anxiety is considered as the non-intellectual barrier to language input. In contrast, positive psychology emphasizes the individual and societal well-being, and it believes that anxiety can interact with other emotions and contribute to language learning. So there is a positive term for language anxiety studies since the introduction of positive psychology into the field of second language acquisition since the year 2012. But previously, a lot of studies focused on the debilitating effect of FLA, and the focus is put on the personal and teacher-related sources, and less attention is focused on the facilitating FLA and social cultural factors. Therefore, this study aimed to investigate the factors that caused for language anxiety among the Chinese EFL learners. To this end, this study adopted the explanatory sequential design. The study was carried out in one public university in Hunan province, the central China, and the data were collected with a questionnaire which is conducted to 490 tertiary students for the questionnaire and 15 purposely selected students for the semi-structured interviews. The software SPACEs was used to analyze the quantitative data and in vivo for the qualitative data. A panel of 2 experts checked the instrument's validity, and the questionnaires Cronbach R value was 0.91. Let's turn to the findings of this study. Findings for the research question 1 showed a moderate level of foreign language anxiety among Chinese EFL learners with the mean value of 2.06. And the qualitative findings further pointed out that FLA among these learners, they would change in different situations. Findings for research question 2 showed a complicated report. It showed that FLA was an interplay of both internal and external factors. And also, the students in the semi-structured interviews showed that they were anxious in English tests and skill testing situations, such as when they are required to make a public speech. And they reported a fear of failure because most of them were not confident with their English proficiency levels. And 13 of them reported the experience of lacking the desire to learn after years of English learning, which surprisingly reduced their anxiety. The compulsory English education and lack of exposure to English added to their foreign language anxiety, and their relationship with peers and teachers formed a FLA regulator, which means that they could be more anxious when they're feeling pressure from or in bad relationship with the teachers and the peers. But none of them reported turning this anxiety into motivation for learning English. The median level of FLA in this study was consistent with the previous study in Li and Jiang and Wei, but the FLA level in this study was a little bit lower than those in the 2 studies. This difference might be caused by different samples. For example, the participants in Li study were high school students who faced the pressure of the National College entrance examination. So this finding pointed out to the importance of regional or individual difference when measuring FLA. And the FLA level was also consistent with the study carried out by De Ware and McIntyre, in which the Chinese EFL learners' FLA level was higher than the international one. It further pointed out the importance of social factors in causing FLA, such as the social norms among Chinese families and schools that lays a lot of emphasis on the academic achievements. But contrary to Trump's study, who stated that FLA mainly originated from learner-related factors, this study pointed out the equal importance of social-cultural factors as the internal factors. And also, it pointed out that social cultural factors can affect internal factors directly or indirectly. These findings pointed out the dynamic nature of FLA, and also it involves the whole educational environment. Limitations of this study lie in the small sample size, because it was carried out in just 1 university in China, and the lack of longitudinal research. That is what future studies should address. But this study also shed light on the whole education, English teaching and learning in China. It pointed out that the student-centeredness is important to English education in China. And for the teachers, they should construct an emotionally engaging environment to involve the students. As for the students themselves, they got to realize their anxiety and make use of it for better input and performance. Just as Ruthie Rankel say that never fear shadows, it just means that there are light shining somewhere nearby. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we might have the experience of anxiety or anxious over maybe a better word or sentence that can better effectively express ourselves or scoring low in the English language test. But finally, we are here sitting around sharing our ideas in English confidently. Okay, thank you very much for your listening, and I'm ready for the question.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fu, for that very clear and concise presentation. You finished on time, and that's great. I'm sure there are questions that will arise from this proposition that you are making about the anxiety of speaking English and learning English. I will, before I ask any questions, I will open the floor for any questions, if anyone in the audience has any questions to raise. Anyone from the audience who has anything related to the idea of anxiety in English learning, please. Anyone there? Yes, please. I can see a participant trying to speak, but I do not hear anything. I cannot hear. I don't think anybody can hear. Can you unmute the mic, please?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. So I saw in one of your slides you do have something called the dynamic features of FLA. Can you explain further what you mean by dynamic features? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, Miss. This is a very good question because I believe that I didn't elaborate on it in detail. And it means dynamic means that it changes, that FLA, a lot of factors interconnected, and is constantly in flux system that changes unpredictably because previous studies have already tested that foreign language anxiety is a situation specific. More than a trait or stage anxiety, which means that some people, they were anxious in this very specific situation, such as public speaking, but in other cases, they will not be so anxious. And also, it means that part of the system causing foreign language anxiety, they could interconnect it and is in constant change. For example, previously research connected the anxiety to motivation or willingness to communicate and consider it as a hindrance to foreign language acquisition. But now people realize the importance of the positive effects and the socio-cultural factors. And also it is a very open system to a lot of contradictory conclusions that can coexist in the study of FLA. And also sometimes, and also noted in my study, that some very minor anxiety among these learners can cause very great. So that is what I believe, and also uncut from some previous studies about the dynamic feature of foreign language anxiety. And thank you very much.
Thank you for that very elaborate answer. Is there any further question? Anyone else has a question? No. I just have two small questions, actually speaking. The anxiety is actually a very common emotion, which I don't think anyone can really completely get rid of, whatever the circumstances are. But I would believe that anxiety results from the lack of self-confidence to begin with. And the lack of self-confidence probably comes from the fact that one is not proficient in the language in the first place. If you're not proficient in the language, then you don't have self-confidence, and that would trigger anxiety. And I wonder if those two ideas have been explored. I didn't see those two particular aspects being mentioned in your research. Did you look at the idea of self-confidence and proficiency as potential triggers for the anxiety?
Yeah, thank you, dear chairperson. And I mentioned this in the factors causing foreign language anxiety. And among these internal factors, sorry for this, the internal factors, one of them is the low motivation and lack of desire to learn, and the low self-efficacy, and also their low motivation. And among these low motivations, no, there's
oh no, I was talking about self-confidence and proficiency.
Yeah, self-confidence, proficiency, that is in the EFL learning ability, and one of them is perceived lack of proficiency. The students, especially in my semi-structured interviews, nearly 12 of them reported anxiety because they believe that my English is not good, and some of them even have very extreme ideas about that my English is very, very bad or poor, which would result in their anxiety levels.
Right. Yeah, thank you very much. Just have a small question. Also, it's not necessarily related to this particular research. At what age do the Chinese students get introduced to learning English? Do they get introduced at the very early stages?
For the Chinese learners, they receive the compulsory English education in the 3rd year in primary school, which means probably at the age of 9. But nowadays, the fact is a lot of parents would offer English training sessions to their children probably at the age of 3 or 4.
Yeah, because you mentioned that there is a negative attitude towards English classes, and I was wondering where that arises from.
Yeah. And,
right. Do you have any idea why there's a negative attitude towards learning English?
This can be traced back in my study, that because because China is a monolingual nation with just the Mandarin language, and also very vast regional difference. So for many people, they learn English when they were very young, but in fact, in their real life and the academic learning, they find a little use of English.
Right. So, and English is looked down upon, is it?
Everybody wants to learn, but also because this one of the reasons, the lack of exposure to English. They have little opportunity or access to using English in their daily life or academic study.
Right. Thank you very much. This is a very interesting phenomenon, obviously a phenomenon that needs to be addressed, given the fact that we are now living in a globalized world and China is a major player. And I believe all Chinese people need to learn English. And this is a very interesting study. Thank you very much. And we have finished our presentation, first one in time. And thank you for that wonderful presentation about the anxiety of the English learners. Let's move on to the second presenter today, which is Miss Fu Ziggy, who is going to talk about Chinese EFL students' learning needs for speaking performance, a case study.
Yes.
Miss Fu, it's for you.
Yes. Okay, good afternoon, distinguished chairperson, examiner, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fu Ziqi. Now I am a PhD candidate in State University, Malaysia. I'm under supervision of Prof. Brunam, and this research is actually a small part of my PhD study. And today I'll be the presenter. I'll present my study on behalf of Prof. Brunam and the 2 of my colleagues back in China, Li Cong and Wang Rui. Okay, well, before I start, I'd like to say that language is kind of like a magic, right? Because it enables people from different parts of the world to communicate with each other and to learn each other. to learn from each other. So that's why we have this opportunity today to meet in this way, right? And my research focused on the language education, and the title of my research is Chinese EFL students' learning needs for speaking performance, a case study. And by the way, the EFL refers to as English as foreign language, okay? Now, moving on to the background of my research, English has already been viewed as the worldwide communication today in today's world, and it has been contributed significantly to Chinese social and economic development. And many scholars has already found out that the EFL learners has viewed that the English teaching has already in China's universities and colleges has already been given priority. And as for the speaking skill, it is one of the 4 essential language skills that one must be mastered when they learn the language. And many scholars has found out that for EFL learners, they view this speaking skill as the most challenging one. That is because the speaking as well as the writing are the productive skills, whereas the reading and listening are the receptive skills. And meanwhile, scholars has realized that the EFL learners must know how to use grammar correctly and have excellent pronunciation and have adequate vocabulary, and meanwhile to know how to utilize the language when they learn English. Well, the problem is now the majority of Chinese college graduates lack the ability to communicate effectively in English, especially, okay, thank you. Sorry, to continue. Well, the problem is the majority of Chinese college graduates lack the ability to communicate effectively in English, and especially many of them leave the university with rather limited speaking proficiency. So that is a problem right now. And the objectives of my research is to explore the differences between the EFL students' self-perceived and actual speaking performance, and furthermore, to explore their learning needs in speaking with regard to pronunciation, grammar, and fluency. And moving on to the literature review, because my study focused on the speaking performance of EFL students. So first, I explore many scholars' views about speaking skill. To conclude, it means the delivery of language through the mouth, to conveying information, and also expressing one's feelings in speech. And as for the importance of speaking skill, the EFL learners has already considered the good communication skills as the passport to better employment opportunities after their graduation. And as for the problems, there are mainly 2 parts. The first is for EFL learners, due to the large class size, there's no opportunities for everyone to speak in the class. And the second is the EFL teachers prefer to teach reading and writing rather than speaking. And moving on to the methodology of my research, this study was conducted at a public university, which is in Hebei province in China, which is located in the northern part of China. And a random sample of 45 non-English majoring first-year students were selected in the study. And as for the research design, I used the mixed method research design because comparing with only using one research design, the mixed method will provide better answers to the research questions by intentionally collecting and combining the qualitative and quantitative data. And for the quantitative, I use the questionnaire and speaking test to collect the data, which the data will be analyzed through the SPSS and for the descriptive analysis. And for the qualitative data, I adopted the semi-structured interview, which will be analyzed by the in vivo for the thematic analysis. As for the validity and reliability of the research instrument, a panel of experts looked through the questionnaire and the semi-structured interview protocols. And for the quantitative, the Cromba alpha value was confirmed to be higher than 0.7. And for the qualitative data, the member checking was adopted. Moving on to the findings. There are 4 research questions in this study. The research question 1 is, what is the EFL students' self-perceived performance in speaking skills with regard to pronunciation, grammar, and fluency? And the second one is, what is their actual performance in speaking skill with regard to these 3 aspects? And the third one is there any significant difference between the EFL students' self-perceived and actual performance in speaking skill with regards to pronunciation, grammar, and fluency? As we can see here, the results are illustrated here, that we can see that there is a significant difference between the mean scores in the EFL students' self-perceived and actual performance in all the 4 items, that is pronunciation, grammar, fluency, and overall skills, overall speaking performance. And they all self-perceived their skills above 6, that is above good, but their actual was around 6 or below 6, that's well above average. And moving on, the 4th research questions is, what are the EFL students' learning needs with respect to speaking skills in pronunciation, grammar, and fluency? The data collected from the semi-structured interview was analyzed by the NVivo, and then as we can see the tree map here, it discovered that there are 2 main expectations when it regards to the EFL students' learning needs. The first one is knowledge-related expectations, and second is psychology-related expectations. And under this knowledge-related expectation, there are 2 sub-themes. The first is the EFL students expected to expand the vocabulary. And the second is they want to master more grammatic rules when speaking English. And as for the psychology related expectations, there are 3 sub-themes. The first one is the EFL students, they're expected to overcome the nervousness when speaking English. And second is they want to embrace their mistakes. And the third one is they're willing to try to speak in English. So as we can see from the discussion above, that there is a significant difference between their self-perceived speaking performance and their actual speaking performance. So that means the EFL students has already overestimated their actual speaking performance. And this finding was similar with the findings of other researchers. And meanwhile, this research also find out that the EFL students highlighted the 2 main expectations in improving their speaking performance in 2 main sections. So to conclude that we've discovered that there is a need for EFL instructors to adopt more innovative teaching techniques to stimulate students' interest and motivation in speaking. And the second is that EFL classrooms need to provide a nurturing and conducive quality learning environments for speaking. And this research also implies that the EFL teachers are responsible for creating a conducive environment that will help the students to reduce their nervousness and encourage them to speak. And the second is to employ appropriate instructional strategies to enhance their speaking skills. And the last one is to introduce more innovative approach to boost their confidence when speaking in English. And as for there's no denying that there are some limitations in this study. So for the future study, it can conclude a larger sample size and to adopt other research methodologies. Okay, and in the end, I would like to quote from Oliver Sacks that we speak not only to tell other people what we think, but to tell ourselves what we think. Speech is part of the thought, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fu, for that very interesting presentation about the speaking skills. And you have wonderful speaking skills, by the way. You made a presentation very well. I will open the floor for discussion if anyone has any questions about why the students seem to overestimate themselves rather than the actual performance, as Ms. Fu was just reporting. Anyone from the audience who has a question about the speaking skills and the obstacles to acquiring those speaking skills in China? Please. No questions?
Prof, hello.
Yes.
I
Thank you,
have
sure.
a question about the
Yes, please.
conclusion part. And Ms. Fu mentioned the creating conducive environment in the classroom. So I'm curious about what do you mean by conducive environment in the classroom?
Okay, first, thank you for your question. And by meaning creating a conducive environment in the classroom means basically two main parts. The first is to create a welcome and judgment-free and non-threatening environment for students. That to tell the students they are supposed to learn from each other, and everyone has the opportunities to speak. They are allowed to speak. And meanwhile, the nervousness is okay, and the nervousness is accepted, and everyone are allowed to talk in the classroom. And second part is the teacher should focus on the active learning of the students, and meanwhile the teacher should provide positive and constructive feedback for their students to tell them how do they improve their speaking in the future. So that's how to create a conducive environment in the classroom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fu, for that very good explanation. I believe actually the environment is a very critical factor in the whole business of learning, because as you know, small kids who go to English-speaking small classes will eventually pick up without anybody teaching anything at all, really speaking, but just by listening to other people.
Yes.
So this is simply the most effective way of getting people to teach. I just have a question. During these English-speaking lesson classes, are the students allowed to speak in Chinese, or is it compulsory that they speak only in English?
Oh, actually, there are opportunities for students to participate in the speaking class, but in China, the classes are quite large, so there is no opportunities for everyone. So only a randomly selected few students have the opportunity to participate. So mostly the teacher will ask the student to record their speaking after class, but that is not an active and participating in the learning experience, right?
Right, yes. And you also said that the teachers prefer writing and reading skills rather than speaking skills, which is a wrong attitude, really speaking. Because if you speak, then language improves, and then your writing skills improve as well, without any questions. So you're right in trying to focus attention to the need to improve speaking skills. Thank you very much. I don't think there are any more questions, although I could raise a few more questions from you, which is a very interesting topic. Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll move to the next presenter, who is Mr. Akishan, who is going to talk to us about the cultural adaptation and validation of cognitive stimulation therapy for older persons with dementia in Malaysia. Over to you, Akishan. You have been waiting long.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairperson, Professor Architecture Dr. Ranjit Dayaratne, professors, doctors, and all participants in these presentations. This presentation entitled Cultural Adaptation and Validation of Cognitive Stimulation Therapy, or CST, for older persons in Malaysia. This paper co-authored by geriatric specialist, medical officer, occupational therapist from Selangor, Malaysia. Like many countries in the world, Malaysia will become an aging country by the year 2030, in which one of 10 populations a person in Malaysia is an older person aged 60 years and above. This could be due to increased longevity, decreased fatality rate, excellent healthcare services. Older persons often affected by many health issues, for example, physical, psychological, health-related issue, and so on. And one of the main health problem among older people is decreased cognitive functions due to mild cognitive impairment or dementia. Dementia affect memory, thinking ability, for example, making tea, dressing, making simple meal, going to the mosque, or doing gardening or any activity in daily living. And treatment for people with dementia is divided into two, which is pharmacological and non-pharmacological, basically medication or non-medications. However, a lot of medications prescribed by doctors will lead to various side effects, serious side effects, for example, nausea, bleeding, headache, muscle pain, and that may lead to other complications such as fall. Therefore, non-pharmacological interventions is perceived as first line of treatment. One of the most effective non-pharmacological intervention to improve memory and quality of life among older people with dementia is cognitive stimulation therapy. However, cognitive stimulation therapy or CST was developed in the United Kingdom. Many activity in the program is not culturally appropriate and need not valid and need modifications. Therefore, the CST is actually a structured activity program conducted for 7 weeks, 2 times per week for 7 weeks, 2 times per week for 1 hour, that aim to stimulate cognitive function and stimulate cognitive reserve and also social interactions. Therefore, there's a need to develop cultural appropriate cognitive stimulation therapy, and the aim of the study is to culturally validate the cognitive stimulation therapy. The methodology as suggested by the inventor of CST, AMER Spectra, are based on formative method of adapting psychotherapy, FMAP model, which consists of phase 1 till phase 5. Phase 1, collaboration with stakeholder, health professionals, carers, and older persons was conducted to discuss about the CST, their opinions, feedback regarding the importance and how to implement the CST in Malaysia was conducted through semi-structured interview. In phase 2, the information obtained from phase 1 was synthesized through a thematic analysis to look at thematic analysis in addition to looking at various journals and articles published. Therefore, then we developed a CST in Malaysia with the manual and also in the instructions. Phase 3 is reviewing with the stakeholder and revise the cultural adaptation intervention. The assessment of content validity of the CSTM was conducted. Content validity index for items and content validity index expert was conducted, and the kappa value was evaluated, in which kappa value less than 0.39 considered as poor, while good considered as 0.60 until 0.70. And feedback and comment was evaluated, and the analysis was conducted accordingly to develop CSTM, cognitive stimulation therapy, Malaysian version. In phase 4, a quasi-experimental pilot study was conducted to elderly people in institution to determine the effect of CSTM, cognitive stimulation therapy, Malaysian versions, and at the same time to obtain feedback from the participant. Phase 5, finalizing the cultural adaptations of the CSTM. In this phase, we finalized the CSTM from focus group discussion regarding the effectiveness and experience of participants who are participating in the pilot study. The result the result from stage 1 indicate that 18 stakeholder or subject matter expert interested and examine the comment, and they provide comment and provide some suggested modification that should be conducted in the CSTM. In phase 2, feedback that was given from the content expert and stakeholder and subject matter expert, in addition from the literature review, was merged, and two superordinate team emerged, that is the structure of the session and the content of the session. The structure of the session provide some modifications, suggested modifications, and also the content also were modified according to the suggestion by the subject matter expert. Result phase 3 content validity indicate that the content score ranging from 0.70, which indicate excellent content validity from the expert, content validity from the expert, for each expert ranging from score of 1.005 expert and 0.601 expert. Result then pilot study that was conducted. As you can see here, this is the result of the pilot study that was conducted regarding the effectiveness of the CSTM. Lowenstein Occupational Therapy Cognitive Assessment for geriatric version was used to evaluate the effectiveness of CST in terms of cognitive function, such as orientation, perception, spatial perception, praxis, visual-motor organization, thinking, operation, memory, attention, and concentration. As you can see from here, there is a significant differences in orientation, perception, and visual-motor organization at P smaller than 0.005, with effect size ranging from medium to large effect size. The result from phase 5, finalizing the cultural adaptation of the interventions. Discussion was conducted with the participant who participate in the pilot study, and the focus group discussion was conducted. The feedback obtained and amendment was conducted to the procedures, and the finalization of cognitive stimulation therapy Malaysian version was developed. Discussion and conclusions. The adaptation version of CSTM was met with enthusiasm from all the individual and also healthcare professions. Results from pilot study indicate that there is a positive effect of CSTM on improving cognitive abilities for all the adults. And in conclusion, cultural adaptation and validation of CST is essential to ensure effectiveness in diverse population as in Malaysia. By embracing cultural adaptation, non-pharmacological interventions like CST can be better tailored to address the cognitive needs for all the individual with cultural sensitivity and inclusiveness. Further research should be explored regarding the long-term effect of and implementation of cultural adaptation of CST program among all the people with dementia in Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very interesting presentation. It's a very, very relevant one, given the fact that, as you rightly said, that there is a large aging population everywhere in the world, and dementia is a critical issue and it needs to be addressed. I would like to open the floor for discussion, and if there is anyone, please come forward. Anyone in the audience who has any questions? Doesn't look like there is any question. Your presentation was very clear. Yes, Jia, you have a question. Jia, Shijia, do you have a question? No, she doesn't seem to have a question. Well, very interesting. I just have a small question. Yeah, the program that you implemented was very popular, and I saw in your presentation that these elderly people were sitting and participating in various kinds of activities. I'm just a little bit curious because these are grown-up people, And certainly, they are sitting around like in a Montessori classroom, being treated like little kids. Do they feel apprehended about being guided and being told what to do, and doing little things that usually little kids will do rather than adults do? Is there any sense of apprehension about that kind of?
Thank you very much, Prof, for the question. Indeed, the activity conducted should be in a group session, because in the group there must be some interactions to eliminate the childishness of activity. We design a program that is for adult rather than for children activities. At the same time, participants are mainly dementia level 1, which is mild and moderate dementia. And so far, we have not received any negative feedback in terms of activity that they are conducted. And all activities are adult-like activities, not children kind of activities, even though it is conducted in a group sessions.
Yeah, just curious, do the people have any role or any opportunity to decide what kind of activities actually?
What Prof?
What kind of activities will they be engaged in? Do they have a choice?
The guideline says that we can sort of adapt and change the activity according to the preference of the group. Means that we can change what type of activity, but the structure is sort of being fixed. Therefore, we have to follow. For example, in a session 4, which is food session, they have to taste, they have to smell, they have to remember all food associated with childhood behavior. Therefore, they can use their reminiscence technique to improve their cognitive function.
Bring back their memories. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Prof.
Talk a lot of time, but we don't have time. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next presenter today, who is, I think we are on time. We have the next presenter, who is Jia, who was there already. She's going to talk to us about comparative study on task-based teaching and learning, a scientometric analysis in site-based paper. Over to you, Jia. You have 20 minutes.
Hello. Hello. The title of my paper is Comparative Study on Task-Based Teaching and Learning, a Scientometric Analysis in Site Space. So first, I'd like to introduce you the research background of the study. As a process-oriented and student-centered approach, task-based teaching and learning, that is TBTL, is critical to developing students' language skills. And Chinese scholars paid substantial attention to TBTL, particularly since research in this field constantly expands and grows in depth. However, different current status, themes, and trends were elicited when comparing TBTL publications in WOS and CNKI. Thus, exploring TBTL to provide researchers with a holistic overview of the field is pertinent and essential. As for the research gap, today, reviews have not from 2013 to 2022. And no literature has been found to compare TBTL publications retrieved from WS and CNKI through scientometric analysis using site space. So 3 objectives are designed. That is to explore the current status, the emerging themes, and the emerging trends in TBTL publications from 2013 to 2020. In the WS and CNKI database. As I have mentioned, 2 databases that search engine for this study, and the total number of publications shown in this table. For WS, the key terms adopted were limited to task-based article and review. As a result, and in the CNKI public searched separately and combined with retrieved, it was also found that CNKI papers appear to be mostly conducted in China compared with those published in WS, which were essentially international studies. And the next part is about major of this. First is comparison of current development status in TPTL in SYNC and W. As you see, first the red line application trends, the black line is the SYNC publication trends, and the dotted lines. So you can see in this figure, TPT application Ws are generally growing exponentially, indicating that this field is not saturated and room for further demand. What contrasts the TPT application side, the trend is decline. So, after deep examination of these studies in 2 days, two possible reasons were identified for the disparity. So first is found that papers published lacking in innovative. Besides that, in research content and discussions have been found in CNKI. TPTL publications in CNKI database appear saturated, while more diversified directions need to be expanded in this field. Oh, sorry. And next is about for the comparison of TPTL themes by using keyword citations inside space. This figure, I circled some words which shows the similarities between the two databases. I've seen this figure. In these figures, TPTL publications in both databases focused on task-based English teaching, and task designs are also the research priority in both databases. While besides that, technology-assisted method is also the research focus. And then, so some differences were also identified by comparing the keyword citations. I list them in the table. First, TPTL publications in CNKI appear to focus on teaching and learning of English language. However, in WOS, TPTL publications in CNKI mainly fall in one category, studies based on different school running and student enrollment systems, and other category comprises studies of specific skills and subjects. Well, in contrast, in the TPTL themes published in WS database, 3 aspects were focused. The first aspect is the effects of learners' learning performance and cognitive differences on SLA. The second aspect is the impact of feedback on the development of SLA and the promotion of mutual interaction. While the third aspect focuses on the reciprocal effects of some affective factors and the development of SLA, its influence on the development of SLA. So next, the themes of TPTL were also compared by examining cohort clusters in the 2 databases. Through the figures in the generating in the site space, it was found that multiple similar themes, such as task-based learning and second language, were identified, and the difference in the themes by examining the cohort clusters were also evident, which was also summarized in the table. One of the major themes in CNKI's TPTL publications is like teaching reform, and business English appears as another major theme. On the other hand, there are two evident themes appear in WoS-DBTL publications, that is interactive learning environment and task-based interaction. In addition to class interactions, increasing attention is also being paid to teacher-student and student-student interactions facilitated by technologies. After examining the themes, the emerging trends were also identified in the CNKI and WoS-DBTL publications by using burst detections of keywords. So after examining the emerging trends, the results is also summarized in this table. In CNKI DBTL publications, two burst keywords, that is online teaching and listening speaking, which lasted from, you can see, 2020 to 2022, represent the latest emerging trends in TBTL studies in China. By contrast, in WoS-DBTL studies, the keywords including classification, task repetition, corrective feedback, and technology constitute the latest research trends in WoS-DBTL publications. Because you can see that these whole detected burst keywords lasted until 2022. That is the latest research year of this paper. And the average burst duration reached 2 to 3 years. So in conclusion, this study provides insights for future researchers who explore the TBTL field, which studies on TBTL, while studies on TBTL needs further development, and more empirical studies and interdisciplinary research should be further conducted. Okay, that's all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jia Shijiao, for that very interesting presentation about task-based teaching and learning and analyzing the published material. Who is speaking there, please? Can you unmute your mic? Thank you for that very good presentation about the analysis of published material on task-based teaching and learning. I was wondering, what is the new trend? I mean, task-based teaching and learning has been happening for quite a long time, and it is understood that task-based teaching and learning is more effective than just lecturing and so on and so forth, and lots of things have been published. But is there an impact really in the classrooms in terms of shifting to task-based teaching and learning, as you can see from literature by any chance?
Through shift, it's kind of, after examining the new trends, one major finding is that technology is increasingly incorporated into TBTL approach. For example, by adopting, sorry, can you hear? Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Technology has been increasingly integrated in TBLT approach. For example, the computers or some mobile technologies like mobile applications increasingly involved in TBTL approach. Some researchers even conducted some empirical studies to study like how TBTL approach can be connected with technologies to further enhance its effect on the language teaching field. So this, I think, it's kind of a major implication for future researchers and also future teachers, like to how to adopt TBTL approach better to have better effect on teaching. And another trend examined in through examining the science-based this publications in speaking is the time is limited. I didn't explore or didn't explain too deep. it's found that after examining and its citation history, that is another function inside space, I found that I found that some researchers, they incorporate like technologies to TBT approach and to instruct the students' speaking skills, which generate very good results. But still, I think more empirical studies need to be conducted to like delve more in this field. So I think the trends can provide a lot of important implications for researchers and also educators.
Thank you very much for that elaborate answer. Are there any others who want to raise any questions about task-based teaching and learning? Anyone from the audience? No, it doesn't look like there is anyone. Of course, there are a lot of questions that can be raised, and you quite rightly mentioned that with technology, very innovative and very engaging new tasks can be introduced in the classroom, which is a very good development. Thank you very much for that wonderful paper. And let's move on to the next presenter because our time is tight. Our next presenter is Diziana, who is going to talk to us about medical imaging students' assessment on radiation protection in clinical training. Over to you, Diziana.
Assalamualaikum and a very good evening to Honorable Chair Speaker, Professor Architecture Ranjit Dayaran. So hello everyone. I'm very honored to give this opportunity to present about my study, which is medical imaging student assessment on radiation protection in clinical training. So my name is Nurul Dizana Nur Azman. I'm from Center for Medical Imaging Study, Faculty of Health Sciences, UITM. Together in this research, we have Nur Fatin Nabila Qasim, Nurul Sadiah, and Ismail Hassan Zaini. Right. So as introduction, we know that medical imaging or diagnostic radiography, or we call as radiology, is a branch in medicine, which is we use X-ray to create the image and to be diagnosed by the radiologist. So together with that, we have a clinical training, which is according to Kayamba and Bawaga clinical training, enable students to put their theoretical knowledge into practice while being supervised by trained radiographers who will educate and provide feedbacks on clinical performance. And the other hand, we have the radiation protection. So radiation protection, as involved in medical imaging, it is a crucial element, which is the radiographer will expose the X-ray and we expose to the patient, and we know that X-ray will harm the living cell and cause the tissue changes. While for radiation protection subject, so when we look at this point, we can relate that medical imaging in the clinical training and radiation protection, all these elements has been instilled in the radiography, which is we call as medical imaging student since their early study. So the objective of this study is to evaluate the pre and post clinical training on radiation protection awareness and knowledge among medical imaging students. As mentioned before, radiation protection and safety is one of the important elements in medical imaging. Hence, the syllabus are already instilled in the study among medical imaging. Several studies done before reveal the worrying issue due to lack of knowledge among radiological personnel. According to study by Abu Hadi shown that diagnostic radiological students in Jazan University have low level of radiation safety. So that's why this study is conducted. So this will be the component covered in this research. So we have the framework, the awareness, and the compliance of radiation protection. So for the radiation protection, it consists three main elements, which is justification, optimization, and dose limitation. So these are fundamental for which is each radiological personnel must know and aware. Awareness and compliance of radiation protection must work together in radiation protection. These two scopes will indicate the sufficient of knowledge and implementation in the clinical field. Previous study shown that non-compliance of radiological protection exhibit long-term effect to patient and worker. As we can see, the examination is necessary and beneficial to offset harm performed with low dose at reasonably achievable within those reference levels. So that's why we need to educate and empower the medical imaging personnel to know and aware about radiation protection. This will be the methodology of this study. So based on this research question, we developed the research question, which is there any distinction between pre and post clinical students on awareness and knowledge of radiation protection? And then we have a literature search based on the clinical training, awareness and knowledge in radiation protection. And then we develop the questionnaire based on the study done before. The guideline of the questionnaire, we follow the guideline of the questionnaire followed in based on the healthcare professional knowledge of radiation protection. So this questionnaire consists of 3 sections, which is that we have 33 questions. And then later, the pilot study was conducted by selective 15 medical imaging students, and the Cronbach Alpha was applied to this pilot study and shown good reliability. The questionnaire later was distributed to all students according to the inclusion criteria, which is only include the full-time medical imaging students, diploma and the degree students. And then we analyze the data according to the groups. So this will be the result for this study. So we have respondent, which is 55% from preclinical medical imaging students and 45% from post-clinical medical imaging students. So the response with the objective, there are 2 sections that will be tested, which is on the knowledge and awareness. So to assess the knowledge, the section 1 and the section 2 we use to assess the knowledge, while to assess the awareness we use section 3. So the mean value for these 3 sections shows that section 1 shows higher mean value, followed by radiation protection in section 3, and last one is in section 2. So the continue with the result. So the independent sample t-test was performed to compare the mean value for pre and post clinical student. A bar graph shown a level of knowledge for pre and post clinical. The total score of questionnaire will be divided into 3 categories, which is low, moderate, and high. As shown in the bar graph, we can see the preclinical student 61.7% score for the moderate, while 38.7% score for the excellent, while for the post-clinical students, more than half, which is 85% score the excellent, shows their excellent level, and 15% shows on moderate level. For the table 2, for the knowledge in radiation protection, the mean and SD result is 7.11 and 1.24 for preclinical students, and for postclinical students is 8.19 and 1.01. So the p-value is 0.14, which is not significant. So there is no significant difference between pre and post student who having a clinical practice for knowledge in radiation protection, while for table 3 show that mean and SD in awareness of radiation protection. Pre-clinical students, which is 8.92 and 1.75, and post-clinical student is 8.34 and 1.05. The p-value is 0.002, which show the significant difference between pre and post clinical student regarding the awareness of radiation protection. So the discussion, the clinical internship is most crucial aspect of the student professional and personal growth during their university education, according to Borrallo, Rigo et al. This study also parallel with the finding by Han et al., which is 95% of healthcare professionals were aware of need of radiation protection, with the 81.8% of stating them they learned about it during the training session. So the substantial difference in the degree of knowledge gained by a people who have or had not undergone the formal training in handling ionizing radiation equipment. So post-clinical student, which is third and fourth year of study, implies that the student understanding of radiation protection would increase remarkably as the years of study progress. So the limitation of this study was not conducted in the setting where the data of radiation knowledge was collected stimulatingly before clinical training and after the clinical training. So for the future investigation, we recommend if the researcher can use the same students, which is the student before and after the clinical years. So this is the conclusion. The three elements are complementary to each other to achieve the framework of radiation protection. Clinical training is still relevant. In fact, the higher level of the profession can work together with the university as well with the hospital to make sure the implementation and practice in the field. As we know that clinical is a process of exploring, analyzing, and expand academic learning in methodological manner. Achievement of these three components will help to reduce unnecessary dose, radiation dose to patient as well as to the radiological personnel. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Diziana, for that very interesting presentation about the hospital staff getting exposed to radiation and the lack of knowledge and awareness. I think I was in another presentation previously in the same conference dealing with the similar issues, and this is a critical issue in hospital where safety is concerned. I would leave the floor open for anyone who has any particular question from Diziana. Anyone has a question? Doesn't look like anything coming from the audience. I just have a very simple question. I mean, the idea that radiation is a safety hazard is pretty well known, even among the non-medical staff like us who are just patients. But I was wondering why it is not so well understood by the students who are learning medical science in universities. How come that their knowledge is so poor about the...
All right. Okay. Thank you for the question, Prof. Okay. In my opinion, the students will be taught about the radiation protection early of their study before they went to the clinical. So maybe in the year 2, so they will went to the clinical on the year end of the year 2. So the theoretical and the practical is not together, and maybe they miss the point or miss the knowledge that them being taught before to be implemented in the clinical setting. That's why we conducted this study, because we realized that students before and after they have the knowledge and the awareness is more increasing the knowledge compared to the previous one.
Right. So what do you think should be done now to try and improve the conditions?
Okay, thank you, Prof. In my opinion, the radiation protection syllabus must be taught to the medical imaging students in their early studies, but the practicality, which is they must go to the clinical setting maybe regularly, because in my those days we went to the clinical setting every semester, so we won't we will apply what we taught every semester. We revise and we practical. But nowadays, because of the limitation of the hospital placement, they've been taught on semester 2, and then they will go to practical in semester 4. So it quite about 2 semester. They left 2 semester. So that's my opinion.
Right. Thank you very much. Shang, you have any questions? Shang Xingtu just came online. Do you have any questions from? No? No. All right. Then thank you very much, Indiana, for that very interesting presentation about the religion, dangers and knowledge about them. Let's move on because our time is limited and running a little bit late. Our next presenter is Xing Wai, who just came online. Correlation between university music teachers, self-efficiency and autonomous learning. Over to you, Xing Wai. We are talking about teaching and learning today quite a lot. Xing Wai is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zhang Xinghui. I am a PhD of education in Sigi University. Nice to see all of you. It is my great honor to give our presentation here. My topic is correlation between university music teachers' self-efficacy and autonomous learning. Please give me guidance and suggestions. Thanks a lot. Now, let's get started. First of all, let us move to instruction. Autonomous progress requires talent, and talent growth needs education. As a result, the implementation effect of an education impacts the overall development of society. Universities are vital for developing the abilities of organizations. University instructors are powerful educational forces. Teachers' self-efficacy influence their behavior and instructional effectiveness. Music instructors' self-efficacy and autonomous learning impact their professional growth at the university and play an essential part in developing high-level music education. The autonomous learning of music teachers in universities is the premise to promote the comprehensive development of teachers. And then let's move to the research questions. Altogether, there are 3 research questions in the study, which are as follows. RQ1, what's the current state of self-efficacy among university music teachers? RQ2, what's the current state of autonomous learning among university music teachers? RQ3, what's the link between self-efficacy and autonomous learning among university music teachers? Next, let's talk about the literature review of the topic. Bandura is a crucial figure in social learning theory. He suggested 3-way interaction determinism, which states that cognition, behavior, and environmental interaction influence human behavior. Self-efficacy refers to an individual's belief that their behavior can achieve specific results. And this belief is a judgment of their ability to complete a particular task, as well as a subjective evaluation of the effect of the behavior. Bandura, 1977. Teacher self-efficacy includes general educational efficacy. Bandura is a crucial figure in social learning theory. He suggested 3-way interaction determinism, which states that cognition, behavior, and environmental interaction influence human behavior. Self-efficacy refers to an individual's belief that their behavior can achieve specific results, and this belief is a judgment of their ability to complete a particular task, as well as a subjective evaluation of the effect of the behavior. Bandura, 1977. Teacher self-efficacy includes general educational efficacy and individual educational efficacy. General educational effectiveness reflects teachers' available views and judgments on the relationship between teaching and learning and the role of education in teaching, Lin, 1999. Autonomous learning is also called independent learning. Hollick, 1981, proposed that learners should take full responsibility for their learning status, including setting goals, determining learning content, self-monitoring, and self-evaluation. Independent learning in this stage emphasizes the independence of learners. Huang, 2007, claims that independent learning means learners have a clear learning purpose, a clear learning goal, and a combination of good learning content, correct learning methods, timely learning monitoring, and learning evaluation, and make full use of learning resources, and with certain external conditions or environmental support, self-regulate and overcome various difficulties in learning. Now, let's move to the methodology. In the study, the researcher used a mixed method, which includes qualitative and quantitative. The interview and observation research tools are used in the qualitative, while the questionnaire is applied in the quantitative. According to the research design and process, with the data collection and analysis, the researcher achieves the findings as follows. The self-efficacy of university music teachers is high overall. University music teachers have the most elevated feeling of efficacy in classroom organization and administration, and the lowest sense of efficacy in student participation. Although a solid intrinsic incentive exists for independent learning, the techniques, time, process, and environment need improvement. University music teachers often need to be more active in their education. There is a significant positive association between self-efficacy and autonomous learning among college music professors, and the two impact and support one another. To be more specific, it can promote instructors' autonomy by increasing their teaching skills effectiveness. Students' input efficacy, teaching material processing efficacy, and interaction efficacy with students or parents. Teacher self-efficacy will be influenced by their choice of self-learning material, learning methods, learning motivation, and learning evaluation abilities. And the discussion of the study is the following. This study found a significant positive correlation between college music teachers' self-efficacy and independent learning in general and in all dimensions. Specifically, improving college music teachers' self-learning can enhance their efficacy in teaching skills, student input, textbook processing, and interaction with students or parents. However, this study also found that overall self-efficacy of music teachers in universities is relatively high, while independent learning is in the intermediate state. Most of them are passive learning because the teaching and the research activities, teaching reflection, and even training that music teachers often participate in are carried out under the arrangements or requirements of schools. Let's move to the recommendations. First, improve the efficacy of college music teachers in the student environment dimension. It includes improve the mastery experience of college music teachers. In this study, the teacher-student engagement efficacy refers to the belief that music teachers help students at all levels to actively engage in learning, which is closely related to the teacher's independent learning. Train university music teachers as role models. A carrier's experience is an observer's belief in his ability enhanced by observing teachers with similar abilities successfully overcome difficulties through efforts. Keep a good attitude and positive emotions when facing students with music learning difficulties. College music teachers should consider the perspective of students. Try to set learning tasks for students in their recent development zone and help them solve the difficulties through monitoring or cooperative learning. Second, improve the internal and external conditions of independent learning for music teachers in universities. It includes provide the external conditions for the independent study of college music teachers, the internal strategy of training college music teachers to study independently. The last one, construct the professional learning community of college music teachers. The learning carried out by teachers' professional learning community is a kind of learning that faces practical problems, sublimits educational experience, gathers mature wisdom, and shares successful practice. College music teachers participate in the professional learning community, discuss teaching problems together, carry out research topics, observe each other in the classroom, promote teachers' reflection on teaching, and improve teaching ability. In addition, a professional learning community for music teachers will be established to facilitate novice teachers and experienced teachers to learn from each other and share wisdom. Following previous studies, this study investigates the relationship between college music teacher self-efficacy and independent learning based on teacher professional development. It suggests for improving college music teacher self-efficacy and independent learning. At the same time, this study also has some technical problems, such as the small sample size of the questionnaires way or the lack of technology to get the test subjects to complete the interview, resulting in a small number of music teachers who do not fully understand the purpose of the survey and do not fully express their ideas. The researchers suggest that future studies should continue to investigate the relationship between self-efficacy and autonomous learning of college music teachers from a longitudinal perspective. That's all for my presentation. Because of the lack of time for study and the limitation of paperwork, and also can't present all the research context in detail, please give us some more suggestions. Now, I would like to give a chance for my co-author Li Chuangang to attend the Q&A section. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that Shang, for that very interesting presentation about the efficacy of music teachers learning, autonomous learning. I would like to open the floor for discussion if anyone has any questions from Shang. Yeah. Anyone has any questions? Doesn't look like there are any questions from the audience. I was just curious about the issue of efficacy and relationship of that to autonomous learning. And I believe in the current educational environment, there is this idea called lifelong learning, and it is something that individuals are expected to pursue continuously as teachers, to never stop learning, but to continue to learning. But it doesn't look like that is happening by themselves. And is that what you mean by this need for autonomous learning? Could you just elaborate on that aspect, please?
Yes. Thanks a lot. It's a good question for us. Actually, in our process of writing, we think about this question. First of all, the self-efficacy and the autonomous learning is very important for our lifelong learning in professional development. At the same time, we pay attention to some college students, especially music students, a lack of the autonomous learning habit and the self-efficacy in the process. So we choose this topic to have a discussion with our group. Now, actually, from the process we study, we find a lot of questions in the paper. We only want to solve only 2 questions, only 3 questions. Now, because of the time and for the study, we didn't solve all the problem in the other aspects in the music, self-efficacy, and autonomous learning. That's a limitation. We'll make up for it in the future study. And here, I want to use this chance to have more advice or suggestions to make our thesis better in the future writing. Please give us some good advice and suggestions, and I hope we can make it better.
Thank you very much. I wonder if there are any other questions from the audience. Anyone in the audience who has any ideas about the ways in which efficacy of learning can be improved by promoting autonomous learning among the music teachers. You proposed a professional college which could probably gather these teachers and provide them with the necessary support and guidelines and opportunities to further their education. Is that in any way being practiced in any place right now?
Yeah. Actually, the essential or necessary support should be needed for the college students, especially music students and music college teachers.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. It doesn't look like there are any questions coming from the audience. Unfortunately, we don't have much time to discuss. So I have to thank you all, Shang Xiao, for the wonderful presentation about and bringing attention to this particular issue of autonomous learning among the music teachers. Thank you very much indeed. We'll move forward to the next presenter, Beatrice Stein. Our next presenter is Yahen from who is going to talk to us about technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge about Tai Chi teachers in higher education. This is a very interesting topic about Tai Chi teachers. Yahen, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Professor.
Tai, are you a teacher of Tai Chi?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Good afternoon, Chairman and everyone. I'm Jia Heng. I'm a PhD candidate in Universiti of Malaysia. My professor is Dr. Madu. My title is technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. Tai Chi teachers higher education. Just a moment. Yeah. My background, about my background, background of study, I mean, introduced where it is in the context of internet plus or or conventional classroom settings. Taiji teaching lack of fundamental instrumentation framework to guide its practices. The significance of Taiji has not been greatly reflected in the improvement and maintenance of Taiji institutes qualifications. My interview, I mean review the technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge, and then Taiji teachers in higher education. About technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge, I mean revised TPAC framework. About Taiji teachers in higher education, I mean reviewed 4 sections. My problem statement. In today's Taiji teaching, which is highly influenced by digital technology, there is limited research yet analyzes the actual teaching method of Taiji, how to Taiji teachers teaching their students, and then competencies that Taiji teachers should propose in teaching purpose. Scholars have begun researching technological use in Taiji instruction. There appears to be no utilization of the TPAC framework for Taiji instruction at tertiary level. About my research objectives, I mean have two research objectives. R1, I mean to identify the levels of each component of TPAC. And then what the competence there among Taiji teachers. R02, I mean I want to examine if there are significant difference in Taiji teachers TPAC levels based on the different demographic variables, gender, teaching experience, and academic specialization, and professional recognition. My methodology, my approach is this study employs quantitative approach. My instrument adapted version of TPAC 21 questionnaire developed by two Wortman and so on in 2017. My sample the shop was conducted among 227 Taiji teachers from 56 higher education institutions in Henan province of China. My data analysis. The collected data were analyzed using statistical tests such as mean, SD, and t-test and one-way ANOVA using SPS as 24. My finding about level of Taiji and its components among Taiji teachers and teachers as seen in your table. Your highest the lowest mean is CK is 3.38, and your highest mean scores or is PK is 3.67. Second finding about independent samples t-test for feedback levels among Taiji teachers by gender. As seen in the table, we know the mean feedback level for male teachers is mean 3.66, and the females mean is 3.25. And the p-value law of 0.05 was shown. So about male teacher and female teacher have significant difference. One-way ANOVA of TPAC levels among Taiji teachers with different teaching experience. As seen in the table, we know p-value lower 0.05. So about different teaching experience have significant difference. Analysis of variance of TPAC level among Taiji teachers with different academic specializations. As seen in the table, we know the p-value lower is 0.05 was shown. So we know there is a significant difference in TPAC level among Taiji teachers with different academic specialization. TPAC level among Taiji teachers with different professional recognition, as seen in a table. We know p-value 0.05 was shown. So significant difference in TPAC levels is found among the Taiji teachers with different. So discussion. So about discussion, I from this first section discussion. First section, university Taiji teachers are general about the flexible apply the TPAC in their teaching practice. Male teachers record higher TPAC levels. TPAC levels than female. This could be probable as females mastery and integration of TPAC into Taiji teachers is not as a component as males. Therefore, in the training process for teachers, it is important to focus on enhancing the competency of female teachers in TPAC. Number 3, this is mean attributed to the fact that teachers with less than 5 years of experience, like teaching experience, TAIG teachers with over 20 years of teaching experience may have low TPAC levels due to the fact that during their early years of teaching, information technology was not prevalent. For TAIG teachers with martial arts background have received systematic training and education during their university years. Moreover, many of them have been practicing TAIG since childhood, which has provided them with relatively rich knowledge of TAIG content. Number 5, the national team places or her emphasis on the aesthetic performance of TAIG. Well, the requirements for TAIG cultural literacy are relatively less strict. About the significance of study, there are 2 contributions. Number 1, your funding of this research will contribute to rewarding the integration of technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge among higher education TAIG teachers. Second, the study aims to explore the TPAC level of higher education TAIG teachers, and then ultimately enhancing their teaching capabilities. My conclusion and recommendation. There are significant in TPAC and then its components based on different demographic variables. The CK component shows on relatively low level. TAIG teachers with less than 5 years of teaching experience and those with physical education background have lower TPAC levels. It is necessary to provide the TPAC training for newly appointed TAIG teachers and then continuously enhancing their understanding of TAIG content. This is my acknowledgement. I want to thank you to the 226 TAIG teachers from 56 universities in Henan province of China. About the paper contribution to the literature field of study. This study contributions to the research on TPAC framework in the field of TAIG teaching and learning. By analyzing the variation in TPAC level of TAIG teachers in higher education institutions with different backgrounds. It provides insights for researchers interested in the study of type decision. This is my reference.
Thank you very much, Yaheng, for that very comprehensive study into the TPAC level of the Tai Chi teachers in the universities in China. Thank you. That was a very comprehensive study. I will open the floor for discussion if there was anyone who has any question, please. Anyone has a question?
I'm sorry?
No, I'm asking the audience if there is anybody who has any question from you. Right, I have just one question from you. You reported that the TPAC levels of females are always lower than the males. So, I mean, that seems to suggest that females are somehow inferior. Is that coming from the fact that they're females, or is there any other reason why their TPAC is low? Always males are always superior. Is that right?
I think the females level, females TPAC level lower than male teachers because maybe females interest about the technological intuition is not clear.
I'm sure there are females in the audience who would not find this conclusion very convincing. Or
yeah, actually, males about the technological intuition is very high, and females is intuition level.
Right. Okay. Okay, we don't have time to discuss the other nitty-gritty of your presentation, but this was a very comprehensive 56 universities across China. Thank you very much for that very interesting presentation. Very unique presentation, by the way. Not many people will be studying Tai Chi teachers and their TPAC levels. Thank you very much for the contribution to knowledge. We'll move on to the next presenter now, which is Idayu, who is going to talk to us about removal of lead from aqueous solutions using ecoskeleton of black soldier flies. This is a very interesting study. Over to you, Idayu.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to each and every one of you. My name is Nur Idayu binti Zainuddin, and it is an absolute privilege to stand before you today to present my research topic, which is removal of lead from aqueous solution using the exoskeleton of black soldier fly. Okay. The usage of heavy metal in industry is increasing due to the advancement in science and technology, leading to environmental issues. Heavy metals are toxic even in a small amount, and their accumulation in a body over time can be harmful to human health. For example, lead is a potential human carcinogen. Thus, absorption is a promising, cost-effective, and eco-friendly technique for wastewater purification. In our mission to tackle the dangers of the lead pollution, we are exploring the incredible potential of the black soldier fly. This remarkable insect has gained worldwide recognition and is now the focus of our research. But why, you might ask? Let me unveil the secret hidden within its outer covering. The black soldier fly exoskeleton contains a special substance called chitin. This substance has captured the interest of scientists and researchers because it has the amazing ability to attach to and remove harmful lead from water. Chitin is a low-cost and easily accessible material that has become a ray of hope in our fight against water contamination. There are three specific objectives in achieving this study. Firstly, to observe the characterization of adsorbent by using FTIR. Secondly, to determine the effect of pH, adsorbent dose, contact time, and initial concentration of heavy metal by using the exoskeleton of BSF. Lastly, to evaluate the relationship between the adsorbent and adsorbate using the adsorption isotope and kinetic model. The process for using the exoskeleton of BSF to remove lead from water involves several steps. Firstly, adsorbent preparation. The BSF was collected from a BSF rearing facility. Then it was washed under running tap water to remove the impurities. The BSF was dried in an oven at 105 degrees Celsius for 48 hours and guided to break the exoskeleton. After that, the BSF powder was further analyzed under FTIR to investigate the functional group of the adsorbent. Secondly, as for the batch adsorption study, the artificial plumbum solution was used throughout the adsorption test. A stock solution of 100,000 mg of PB was prepared by dissolving a certain amount of chemically pure in distilled water to desired concentration. The pH is adjusted with 0.1 molar of hydrochloric acid and natrium dioxide to monitor by using a pH meter. The adsorption study was conducted in 50 milliliter volumetric flask. The batch study was started by observing the effect of pH, then adsorbent dosage, adsorbate concentration, and lastly contact time. The pH was observed between 3 to 11, adsorbent dosage 0.2 gram to 1.0 gram, adsorbate concentration 2 to 10 milligram per liter, and contact time between 30 to 150 minutes. After every batch study, the sample was filtered into the centrifuge tube using Whatman paper. Lastly, the sample was analyzed by using the AS to get final concentration of the PB solution. The data from the experiment was further analyzed by using the adsorption isotherm and adsorption kinetic. The adsorption isotherm was used in explaining how the solute interact with the adsorbent, and two models were used, which are Langmuir and Freundlich isotherm. As for the adsorption kinetic, it refers to the rate at which molecules or particles are adsorbed onto the surface. This experiment used two models, which are pseudo first order and pseudo second order model, which are commonly used in practically every sorption process. So this equation was used to get a linear form in the graph. This is the results of the FTIR analysis on grinded BSF. The FTIR analysis was used to determine the functional group present in the exoskeleton of BSF. The figure shows the FTIR spectra for the BSF, and the peak present between 4,000 to 5,084 shows that there was OH stretching. At the peak 3,000 to 200 and 500 shows there was a vibration elongation of C single bond H in group of CH2 and CH3. Peak 1740 indicates that C double bond O stretching. Peak at 1634 shows the valence variation of C double bond O amide 1, and 1525 is a variation of N single bond H amide 2. Lastly, peak at 1161 indicates that there are valence vibration of CN stretching. The various band of this functional group found in the FTIR result shows that there is a presence of chitin, which is responsible for the plumbum adsorption. Okay, next, I will proceed with the batch adsorption study finding. Firstly, the effect of pH on the removal of PB from aqueous solution. The blue line graph shows the percentage of plumbum removal and the adsorption capacity in various pH region. pH has a significant impact on the heavy metal surface charge and the type of ionic species present in it, which influence the adsorption. In the graph, we can observe that the adsorption capacity for plumbum increased from 0.318 mg per gram to 0.5 mg per gram as the initial pH of the solution is raised from 3 to 11. At lower acidic pH levels, the removal of plumbum is less effective, with only about 60.8% being removed. However, as the pH increased, the percentage of plumbum removal significantly improved, reaching 95.3%. This is because at low pH levels, there is an increased presence of hydrogen ion, which impact the effectiveness of the removal. However, as the pH increased, the protonation of carboxyl group on the adsorbent surface decreased. This leads a stronger electrostatic attraction between the plumbum ion, and the surface, as the surface become less positively charged. Additionally, the presence of competitive positive ion decrease at higher pH level. Secondly, the effect of adsorbent dosage in plumbum removal. The purple line graph shows the percentage of plumbum removal and the adsorption capacity. The percentage of removal shows a trend where it initially increased from 78.6% to 86.2% as the adsorbent dosage is increased from 0.2 gram to 0.4 gram. However, when the dosage is further increased to 0.6 gram, the percentage of removal slightly decreased to 81.3%. Subsequently, the percentage of removal start to rise again to 84.6% at 0.8 gram and 86% at 1 gram. This can be explained by considering the contact surface area provided by the adsorbent. When a greater mass of adsorbent is used, it offers a large surface area of plumbum ion to come into contact with. Consequently, this enhances the percentage of removal. Even though the percentage of removal increased, the adsorption capacity actually decreased gradually from 0.465 milligram to 0.089 milligram per gram. This could be because when we added more adsorbent without increasing the amount of plumbum, there were more empty binding sites, resulting in lower absorption capacity. Thirdly, the orange line graph shows the percentage of plumbum removal in different initial concentration of adsorbate. The results indicate that with the increase in plumbum concentration, the percentage of removal decreased from 89.6% to 88.45%. Then the percentage of removal increased to 92.5% and started to decrease back to 92.3% and 88.4%. Meanwhile, for the absorption capacity, it increased from 0.261 milligram to 1.366 milligram. Therefore, the optimum initial concentration of plumbum selected for this study is 6.0 milligram per liter, since it has high percentage of removal compared to other initial concentration. This situation results from a stronger driving force provided by the concentration gradient. The equilibrium absorption capacity of black sodium increase with increasing of the plumbum ion concentration. The absorption process produce adsorbent would be surrounded by more plumbum ion in the solution. Lastly, the green line graph shows that 6 milligram per gram within 30 minutes to 150 minutes. The plumbum uptake is comparatively a little lower in short reaction time, approximately 80.7%, but it increased for longer reaction time, indicating that the percentage of plumbum removal reached 89.3%. This indicates that at 30 minutes time, the absorption capacity is minimal and increases slightly with increasing the contact time to 60, 90, 120, and 150 minutes. This happens since there are two stages of metal uptake. First with quick uptake and then with the slow uptake. When there are many more accessible sites than there are metal species to be absorbed, the absorption process seems to move along quickly. With more metal being absorbed, more contact time was needed. Then at a certain time, the absorption did not occur or significant change in equilibrium concentration happened, indicating that the absorption has reached the equilibrium stage. In short, the suitable pH in removing plumbum from the aqueous solution using the BSF is at pH 11 with 0.4 gram of adsorbent dosage, and the absorption time preferred was 150 minutes in this study. The data retrieved from the batch absorption study was further analyzed using the adsorption isotope and kinetic model. As for the adsorption isotope, Langmuir and Freundlich model was used. Langmuir used to max an assumption that the maximum adsorption happens at monosaturated layer. Meanwhile, the Freundlich model predict that the multi-layer metal ion adsorption happen. The high value of determination coefficient suggests the best fit model for the adsorption study. Thus, from the table, it shows that the high value of determination coefficient for Freundlich model suggests that Freundlich model is appropriate for describing the experimental data. As for the kinetic model, pseudo first order and pseudo second order was used. Pseudo first order assumes that the adsorption happened in a physical adsorption. Meanwhile, pseudo second order assumes that there is a chemical adsorption which include the transfer or sharing of electron between the adsorbate and adsorbent. The high value of determination coefficient suggests the best fit model for this kinetic study. Thus, since the PSO model shows high value of determination coefficient compared to the PFO, it indicates that the pseudo second order is appropriate for demonstrating significant interaction between the adsorbate and the adsorbent. In addition, the experimental quantity of plumbum ion adsorbed is 0.796 milligram per gram was relatively similar to the calculated quantity of plumbum ion adsorbed, which is 0.791 milligram per gram. Thus, it can be concluded that the removal of plumbum in the aqueous solution happened in chemisorption at multi-layer surface. It also can be confirmed that the presence of chitin in the exoskeleton of BSF helps in removing the heavy metal. As for the conclusion, the BSF exoskeleton was found effective in removing plumbum at higher pH, which is 11, with the maximum adsorption intensity was 1.15 milligram per gram. It also indicates that the multi-layer adsorption occurred between the exoskeleton BSF and the plumbum, and it was observed onto the heterogeneous of available active site. Thus, the BSF can be applied as cost-effective removal plumbum from real water samples due to the high capability. As for further study, several aspects can be conducted, such as modification or extraction of black solder fly for better adsorption efficiency of the sorption sites, or deproteinization procedure. Secondly, the study of the adsorption at other parameters such as temperature, or using mixed sample or wastewater from the industry itself to ensure the efficiency of the adsorption. And lastly, creation of an ecological friendly scaffold that can hold the adsorbents in place and provide maximum exposure throughout the adsorption process is suggested, along with research and collaboration with engineering students. Okay, this is the reference I used, several reference. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noor Idayu, for that wonderful, excellent presentation of a very well executed experiment into the removal of lead from water using BSF material. I do not know if anyone is in the audience who has followed the experimentation and who has any questions from Noor. Is there anyone who wants to raise any question? No, I think everyone is tired and waiting to go for tea. I just have a very simple question. It seems like a wonderful material and seems to be doing the job of removing lead, as you very skillfully experimented and demonstrated. I'm wondering if this material is readily available in large quantities to be put into actual practice to remove lead from water where they are present. Are they available?
Yes. Nowadays, people are starting to use this pest as one of the best decomposing pests lah. So people are starting to use organic waste to use this pest, this slide to decompose the organic waste. So it is available for the adsorption study.
Now the material is available in Malaysia, is it?
Yes, in Malaysia.
Is it available in other countries as well? Do you have any idea?
As I know, US or UK starting to develop this. What is that? The request for the organic waste facility using the BSF.
So it is done at an industrial scale in other countries? Is it
Not
done
yet. Not yet.
Not yet. But there is a big future for it to be implemented as industrial production. Wonderful. This is a great new discovery, and congratulations for being such a good scientist. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Right. I think with this presentation, with this wonderful presentation, we'll conclude this session. I'm sorry we are running a little bit late, but all the presentations were very interesting. We had Fu Fen talking about English as a foreign language in the classroom, about anxiety. We had Fu Ziki talking about speaking skills of English as foreign language students. We had simulation therapy to deal with older person's dementia. We had Shichao talking about task-based teaching, and Diziana talking about the radiation protection of the clinical training in medical imaging. Then Xing Wai talked about the music teachers and the autonomous learning. They were all very interesting studies. And Yaheng was telling us about the Tai Chi teachers and their technological and pedagogical content knowledge being superior among men rather than women. And now Itayo is giving us a lot of hope that lead can be now finally removed from water with very ecologically sensible materials. Very beautiful and wonderful presentations. Thank you very much, all of you, the presenters, for making this conference a successful knowledge generating event. And thank you very much, all of you, those who were participating in this conference. And I think we will meet again next time at another conference. And until then, I thank you, all of you, for being in this conference today. Thank you very much. Over to you.
A very old song during our school days. Bye.